on a memento, and we will be in there.
The stream is live.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm waiting for it to catch up on the gram.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
Let's
look, you're
see.
live. What? Okay. So should I? Oh, great. Now I see myself looking down. Awesome. Should I invite my so no. How do you do this? You have to tag
No,
me. I'm gonna
I'm gonna
not touch
tag you.
anything.
Yeah. Let's see if this works. This is the first time I've done this.
Okay. Well, it said I've joined, so there's that. Ah, joined by Ariella. Okay, cool.
Boom. Pin comment. All right. I think we are ready to rock and
I
roll
think
here.
so too.
Well, hi there. How are you?
Hi. Stressed. Yesterday was stressful, and I tried to get views on anything yesterday, and it was not happening.
Yeah. I'm glad that wasn't just me because if I'm being real, and I knew I took on a couple controversial topics, one of which being like, trans women in sports. But I felt like, man, controversy might push through as all the other, no, obviously
Nothing.
we're sitting in the spot where like I'm so ready for primary season to wrap up. Um,
Oh my God.
I think we have a few more of them, right? Like I know Minnesota's is next week. We're and the Peggy Flanagan, Angie Craig of it all has been
Oh God, I'm
a
so
lot.
annoyed with the whole thing. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just don't understand. I love Gwen. I don't understand why she did what she did, and I don't think that was a
Yeah.
great move.
I was surprised, to say the least. I mean, like, because that's Peggy's the lieutenant governor. Like, they're right there. Like, I'm in the cabinet. I'm
They're
complicit
family
watching the governor
friends.
pop.
Like, I
You
yeah,
know?
I don't know what the deal is. And I just feel bad for Hope because like we know her and like I just want her to be okay. And there's no way that her comment section looks good
No,
after that.
and I think that's the other thing is like, I think there's a collective understanding that needs to be had around like, man, when we are like people are going to pick sides in a primary because that's the primary. So let's probably start there. We are in the middle of primary season, and it has been this, in my mind, like constant push, and it feels like everyone is trying to get to the space of saying what faction of the party will win.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the results are playing out the way that folks have intended in that way.
I think one thing that scared me last night was I was watching Steve Kornacki because I like the fact that there are no pundits on Steve Kornacki. It's just him going through the numbers. And but he does get pushed in with NBC people, and that includes Kristen Welker and a few other people. And the way they were talking about it, it was very much, what about the progressive versus the moderates? And I'm like, that's not a helpful stance. That's not going to help us. There's nothing good that comes from us pitting each other against each other. Like, if you're doing it based on, because what Steve Kornacki does it with is like, early voters are more moderate, people who vote on election day are
For
more
sure.
progressive, which I hate and I'm confused about and bothers me. But I don't understand. I think it does is make us feel like we are attacking each other and like we are against each other. And so the more I saw that, and I saw it for every race, it wasn't just for um uh Abdullah Saeed and Haley Stevens. It was also for Kansas. It was also for Missouri. It was also for
Yeah.
every place there was an election. It was about progressive versus moderate. And that's just like, I know there are a lot of people who want to hear that because they always want the progressive to win, but there's so much that isn't talked about when it's progressive versus moderate. Like, I have a complicated relationship with the whole APAC thing in general, but especially when it comes to Haley Stevens, because she was the first Democrat that they endorsed ever, that they like gave money to.
Yeah.
And they gave money to her against a family friend of mine, against someone who has known my family in Detroit for generations.
For sure.
So the one time that I am willing to talk about APAC is with her race because she was the person that got APAC to start giving to Democrats. But even with that, She has some fairly progressive ideas. I
For
mean, if you
sure.
listen to her talk to like Sydney Camelker Dove, who is one of my favorite reps, like they have a lot in common in terms of their values. And so this idea that if someone isn't considered progressive by fill in the blank person, they're not worth listening to is really dangerous. And that seems to be happening more and more. And I look on social media and there are people that are just completely written off if they
Yeah.
aren't considered progressive by the DSA, not even by Working Families Party. There are some people that Working Families Party really support that the DSA doesn't, and therefore they don't matter. And that's something that I'm seeing that I'm not excited about.
Because primaries aren't supposed to be a zero sum game. Primaries are supposed to earth which particular set of ideas, or in often cases, which particular person might best represent that community at this time. And then once the voters have made that decision, then everyone who might also align on some of those things then is supposed to show up. Like, I think
Yeah.
where I get particularly frustrated in the entirety of it is across the board, there is not a single politician out there that every policy proposal they put forward I agree with. But I also like know enough politics to know that all those policy proposals are just that. They are ideas. They are things that they think they would be able to get done. But if you're running for the House, you have to get 200 and some change other people to agree with you. If you're in the Senate, you got to get 59 other people to agree with you. You have to figure out if you can get in the House the whip to actually whip the votes for you and get the majority leader to actually bring it to the floor. So, like, so often people are exercising this idea that, like, if I don't agree with every policy proposal, then I can't support that person. The
Yeah.
objective here is like, I might personally align more with this person, but they then win the party nomination. And like, once again, as a Minnesotan, I'm sitting in the, you know, Tim Walz steps down, which still breaks my heart, right? Tim Walz says he's not running for reelection. So then we scramble. Amy Klobuchar is like, yeah, I'll come into the space. And then as that happens, then there's like people who are like, I don't like Amy. So then I was at the convention. One of the wildest things I've ever seen in my entire life. First of all, like trying to establish the rules at a Minnesota Democratic convention took hours. Second of all, once we did that, there was this push around how many votes were necessary to bring another person onto the ballot who was challenging Amy Klobuchar. Like it was like all of these things were happening. The objective should have been, okay, we want to hear from this person who might be more progressive or this person who might be more moderate or whatever it might be. Whatever your particular policy positions are, you listen to the policy positions of the person who is not in the same space as you. But if they win, at that point you go, do I care about their policy positions and align with their policy positions more than I agree with the Republican? And in the case of governor from Minnesota, it's like, is it that person or is it Lisa Demuth or the My Pillow guy?
Right.
Like, is it Peggy Flanagan or Angie Craig? Like, whomever wins that, or is it Royce White, who's like out here spouting conspiracy theories? Like, at some point,
Yeah.
I think people have lost the plot of what primaries are supposed to do. They think of them as litmus tests as opposed to competitions and contests to see which person will represent the party.
Yeah. I think that it's also like I'm getting very scared about Michigan because I have a lot of family in Michigan and they have said I'm not voting for El Said. And I'm like, okay, so you'd rather Mike Rogers? And they're like, well, I don't care as long as it's not El Said. I'm like, but you do care because you care about
Yeah.
democracy and you care
Yeah.
about all these things. Why can't you realize that? And then I also have people like on social media who are like, when I said yesterday, I said our enemy, why do people on the left treat the moderates as the enemy of all evil? Why do people on the right, the moderates treat the DSA as the enemy of all evil? The enemy of all evil is Republicans. And I got comments saying the enemy of all evil is socialists. I'm just like, we are losing the plot. We are losing the plot. We
Fully.
can't do this. We can't do
And
this.
and to that point, like I think I'm very curious what will happen with Abdul, who like won a very, very tight race.
Yeah.
But I see it as very similar to Texas. James Tallarico won a tight race.
Yeah.
And in the process, 96% of black people who cast a vote in that primary voted for Jasmine Crockett.
Yep. And that's the same way it went for Haley Stevens. It's
So at some point, you actually
yeah,
have to, regardless of if you won, you have to figure out how to represent the totality of your constituents.
yep,
So my position has always been, if you win and you're a little bit more moderate, but man, 400 and some change thousand people voted against you, you got to figure out a way to possibly adopt some policy positions to bring some folks in to actually get over the finish line.
which is
Because
what's
ultimately,
scary about Al
yeah,
Saeed, because he's going to have to be a little more moderate, and he knows that he's not under any. He's going to do
he's
fine. The
already
problem is, I'm
distancing
worried about
himself.
his supporters and how they're going to react to him
Yeah,
being more moderate. It reminds me of what happened with Kamala, with having Liz Cheney on the trail. And that was a really, in my opinion, that was a really good thing.
yes,
I'm
agreed.
glad she did that. I thought that was fantastic. I thought they worked well together. I thought it proved that what we're fighting for versus, and showed the differences between what Liz Cheney is willing to sacrifice so that we have democracy. And then everyone else saw it as Kamala Harris giving in to the Republicans. I'm like, no, the Republicans are giving in to us. Like the same thing is about to happen in Arizona. I don't know if you heard about Katie Hobbs. She just announced that her lieutenant governor, her running mate is John Giles, I think is his name. He's a
Okay.
Republican former. He spoke at the Democratic National Convention. He endorsed Kamala Harris. But he is a Republican technically. And all the comments are already saying like she's gonna lose, this is the end of the road, blah blah, even though
Yeah.
it's fucking Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona is not a
New York
blue
City.
state.
Yes.
It's a very purple state. And so we need, if John Giles, I think that's his name. I really hope I'm giving him the right name. But if he is willing to work with Katie Hobbs, that's not Katie Hobbs giving up. That's him showing that
For
he's the one who's
sure.
sacrificing something she's not. And I wish that there was a way to explain that to the far left, and it doesn't seem like there is.
Right. And I think part of that is like, in order to be an effective politician, you have to be able to compromise and to make deals and
Yep.
to push on some things and capitulate on some things. And I think oftentimes that people online want politicians to operate like content creators. They want them
Yes.
to operate as ideologues. And I don't think that you can win general elections as ideologues,
No.
because in 2024, the objective, once again, and I it blows my mind that people do not remember this. In 2020, the objective was beat Trump, because
Yeah.
Trump is an existential threat to democracy. And we didn't even know how existential at the time, because January 6th hadn't happened. But we also knew what was happening with COVID at the time. So we're like, we have to fix that. Even more so in 2024 was like, this man did everything to undermine democracy at every step and every page. Now, in order for us to build a type of coalition to beat him, we need everyone from the far left to the moderate right to get together and actually do something to defeat this existential threat. For some reason, to your point, I think that we have more intra-party fighting, more people who are frustrated and angry with the potential of
Yeah.
somebody who they don't agree with in their party being in power than they are of the severely existential threat that is the Republican Party. I mean, Todd Blanche is out here talking about how they're going to try to like make the Dobbs decision universal across all states. That's absurd. That needs to be checked. I'm more concerned about having a Senate that's willing to check Todd
Right.
Blanche than I am about if this person's a member of the Working Families Party or the DSA, or if they got money from somebody I don't really agree with. At the end of the day, are they going to put a check and balance on this president? Like, that's the point.
And the thing I say to a lot of people, especially about the House, is they're like, well, I don't like a fill in the blank member. And I'm like, that's great. That's fine that you don't like them. You don't have to like them, but if they are if we have the majority, which they would help us get to, we have subpoena power. We have control of committees. I keep saying in terms of committees, I keep talking about the Rules Committee, because the Rules Committee is 4-9, and it will be 9-4 if we get in power. And like that matters because that determines everything that goes to the floor. Sometimes they can just pass a rule. They can just pass the entire bill and it doesn't even go to the floor at all. That's what matters to me. And then people are like, well, if they're in power, then I don't want Hakeem Jeffries to be speaker. I'm like, Hakeem, as speaker, his role is very small compared to um Chair Chair Jamie Raskin's role is one of the biggest roles in Congress. Chair
Yeah.
Robert Garcia, that is also one of the biggest roles in Congress. And so when there's this idea that, oh, it's only the leader, only the speaker, and that is the only like thing that matters. And if it's not someone I want, and if it's not that bad if Republicans are in power, because there's not much that the speaker does. There's so much that we do. There's so much we need to be in the majority for. And
Yeah.
it's just I'm trying so hard to get people to understand that like what the majority means. And it's just like, yeah, but I don't like this member. I'm like, there was like
Yeah.
today,
Yeah, go ahead.
Emily's List just endorsed Marie Glusenkamp Perez. And all it is, of course, ratioed, and all the comments are atrocious. And I'm like, okay, but we have to win. So, of course, they're going to endorse her. We all
Yeah.
need to endorse her. I endorse her. Do I like her? Not particularly, though I will say she's very good locally. Like, she really cares about her constituents
Yeah.
in a way that makes me very happy. Nationally, definitely not my favorite member, but she really
Yeah.
does care. She goes to town halls, she meets with her constituents. She like fixed a toilet in her kids' preschool or something. She brought them like a new toilet because they needed better plumbing. Like that's who she is. That's
For
why she
sure.
keeps getting elected. Like people ask, why did he get 15% and she got 38? Because she is out there in the community being a member of the community and showing her constituents that they matter. And I don't like a lot of her values. I really don't. But I'd rather she be in power and we have the
Yes.
majority than she be out of power and we not have the majority. Like
Yes.
it really is that simple.
I mean, I remember, I don't remember who it was who was running for Senate, but who was like, um, Graham Platten, not Graham Plattner, Chuck Schumer. It might have been Graham Plattner who said this, but Chuck Schumer, I'm your worst nightmare, and I'm like, why? Why is Chuck Schumer the person that you're going after and not Donald Trump?
Yeah.
These are the things that concern me. John Thune is currently the Senate Majority Leader.
I know we're
Currently,
talking about John Thune and with Andy Bashir with
it is
the Mitch McConnell
absurd to
thing.
me. Like that's and you and I have been aligned on this. So I just can we for a second because this
Yes,
has actually been something that has
yes.
pissed me off for weeks. So first of all, I like Andy Bashir. Like I had a chance to meet him, and to me, if you were winning the governorship in a state like Kentucky as a Democrat, I already rock with you because you got a certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
And when I had the chance to talk to Andy Bashir, I asked him about what it looks like to show up for your community. Like, how are we fighting? He gave me an example of the work that he did to finesse the Republican majority in the House and the Senate in the state of Kentucky to find funding to build a clean energy sector in eastern Kentucky in the Appalachians and also build a brand new hospital in an all black area of Louisville. And I was like, that right there. How do and he was like, and I refuse to call it clean energy because they'll get upset with me if I call it clean energy. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying these are energy sector jobs. It's not green energy, it's not clean energy, it's just new jobs coming to Eastern Kentucky. Watching that happen. So I was already like, this man's strategic. Then you start doing the math in the Senate and the fact that Donald Trump wants nothing more. Like literally, he thought the big beautiful bill was it. He tried to smash the SAVE Act into the big beautiful bill, couldn't get it. He has wanted the SAVE Act passed the whole time. They don't have the votes. And the idea of being like, oh, well, he could just appoint some. And this is my personal local media. I have a personal vendetta against certain political content creators whose names I will not call because that is not how I get down. But people who are very close to me have heard me say their names on a regular basis because they are always wrong. They get it wrong all the time. And they are constantly pushing things. And I'm like, did you Google it? I'm not even asking if you took civics class. Can you just do 2 Googles? You ain't even got to use the chat GPT, just 2 Googles. And come to the conclusion that doesn't even make logical sense what you're asking for. So watching people get up in arms, and I still see it every now and again. Oh, Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell. I listen, and I say this as disrespectfully as possible. I hope they are weekend at burning Mitch McConnell, thinking that they're doing something strategic. I hope so. I hope that all these AI pictures they put out are not real, and that we're just not seeing that they've already grieved him, they've already buried him. But they like that. That is what I think is actually happening. That's a conspiracy theorist in me. But if he's alive, him being in that hospital is the greatest thing that has ever happened, because
Right.
it is one less vote. And to suggest that right now, Charles Booker is fighting for his
Oh my god.
life.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is no one talking about him? Why the amount of people, if everyone who talked about Mitch McConnell was talking about, or Andy Bashir was talking about Charles Booker instead, he would win. I think I can say pretty definitively, if they were talking about Charles Booker the same way they're talking about Andy Bashir, he would win. Like, and then they're like, oh, but we need a Democrat, we need the seat to be filled. I'm like, you're filling it till November. You realize that or till January. Like, we have an election. Someone said like Mitch McConnell needs to retire. I'm like, he did. He's
Listen,
already retired.
no,
There
the
is
one
a
that threw me
candidate.
is
We have a
someone said
candidate.
that Andy
Good
Bashir should
candidate.
appoint Thomas Massey, and I was
Oh,
like,
I've heard that.
I need you all to understand. You're putting a lot of faith in a Republican. There is not the only Republican I would ever put that kind of faith in is Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney showed, hey, I'll do my own thing. I don't trust no
I'm not
one.
even sure I'd put the faith into Mitt Romney. There's a few.
Listen,
I mean, the only Republican I put my faith into like that is like Michael Steele or Jolly, and those are not Republicans. Well,
yeah,
Michael Steele might be, but like they're not Republicans anymore. So that
but
tells you my thoughts on
yeah.
Republicans being trustworthy.
So the idea of being like, yeah, we'll just reverse it, and we'll give them a Republican who can then run in the statewide as I'm already in the seat. Then you've just given that seat away. Like, everything that is happening right now makes so much logical sense to me. It is so strategic, and I'm tired of people who just want theater. What they want more than anything.
They're like, he should go. They're like, Andy Bashir should go to the hospital and barge into his room. And I'm like, HIPAA. No, we don't know HIPAA. And then they're like, well, and then I'm like, oh, you realize? I just start with like, you realize he's not even in Kentucky. He's in DC. And they're like, well, why can't he fly there? I'm like, because he's focusing on his state and his constituents, and his constituents do not live in DC. And what would it help for him to stand outside? I mean, what they want him to take a phone. They want him to be Aaron Parnas. That's what they want. They want him to do the job of a journalist. That's not his job. He's not a journalist. He's protecting his state. And one thing I just thought of is there's a reason we haven't heard a whole lot about the Kentucky legislature, because we haven't. That has not been one of the states that we've heard the worst things from this year. And that's because of Andy Bashir, and that's because of the work he's doing behind the scenes and the work we're not going to hear about that he's doing, talking to the legislature and getting to a point that he can convince Republicans to do things, and no one gets it. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm so sorry. What? Like, how are we still here? People are still talking about, oh, Mitch McConnell is going to be said that we're going to say that he's dead. Well, now it was yesterday. And they're still saying it. I'm just like, who cares? I don't care. I could not care less. Like, whether he's dead or he's incapacitated or he's just in recovery, we have one less Republican vote in Congress. Yay! Like if he was missing, if he was like actually missing, like with what happened with Kay Ivey last year, with the fact that who is now dead. Now she actually is dead, but she wasn't dead at the time.
Right.
She was literally missing. We had no idea where she was. They kept looking in her office. They kept looking everywhere. They finally found her in a memory care unit in some nursing home. That's different. That is a missing member of Congress. We don't know where they are. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There is no, but he fell. He's injured or worse. We know where he is. We know what building he's in. There's no like, this isn't like some cover up of he went out of state or we know where he is. We don't know how he is, but we know where he is. Let him be there. Let him stay there.
And we know where he's not, which is the Senate floor.
Which is the Senate. And
that's all that matters at this point. Like,
oh my God. Why can't they talk about Charles Booker. Why can't
Because
they
that,
talk about
and
Charles
I think this is
Booker?
the other frustrating thing. And if we could touch on like Cory Bush for a second, I think Cory Bush is another very clear example of Cory Bush had the name recognition, but if we look at the money, she was not collecting from a fundraising standpoint.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who are running around the internet today being like, "Oh, y'all, y'all failed Cory Bush." And I'm like, "No, y'all failed Cory Bush. If that was a person you wanted to support, you should have supported them with your time, with your energy, with your money." But what happens is people love the all of the things that they can talk about. They love the controversy. They don't love the contribution.
Yeah.
Because Charles Booker could use people, regardless of the state you live in. You can sign up for a phone bank,
Yep.
regardless of the state you live in. You can send $5, $10,
If they spent the amount of time that they spent talking about Mitch McConnell, talking about Charles,
using their
phone banking for
platform for
Charles
that.
Booker, if the amount of time, if we took the amount of time that everyone spent writing one of those posts about Mitch McConnell, and they instead went to Charles Booker, imagine how well he'd be doing. Instead, most people still don't know his name.
Yeah. Because even I remember to that point when Jasmine Crockett was at an event with the Missouri Democrats and was saying nice things about her colleague. And everyone
Oh,
was like, she's officially endorsed him. And I was like, no, she didn't. And that video, everyone in the comments of it was like, you can't tell us what we didn't see. And I'm like, no, no, I know what you saw. But I also know the difference between like, hey, I think he's doing a great job. And I'm officially endorsing this person because she
yeah.
had just done that with Javier Becerra a couple weeks ago, but a couple weeks before that. So what was interesting to me though is that people were running up and down
Yup.
making content about that. And I think it was Liz Booker who was like, if y'all used this as an opportunity to tell people to donate to Cory Bush, that would make sense. Y'all don't care about Cory Bush.
No,
You care about controversy.
you care about breaking down the black, or like that's what it comes down to.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
that's the bottom line. It's always the bottom line. It's never not the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, I think we
It-
we we talked the other day just around the idea of like the heaviness of white supremacy and how
yeah.
it plays so strategically in left-leaning spaces. I think the assumption is, oh, if I voted for Obama twice. Like there's like this idea that there's an inherent anti-racism associated with being liberal or being progressive or being leftist. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I say that as a person who used to do DEI trainings for teachers, most of whom were more left-leaning, and those were still enlightening. So we're seeing those things still play out in these conversations. Um, and the question then becomes like, now what? like we
Yeah.
said, I think we're coming to our last few. I respect Texas getting theirs out the way. Like, man, I wish we had wrapped it up down here a long time ago. But
California's done, thank God. That was hell. That was hell. I
yeah,
cannot. It was the worst. I've never had to care about a primary in my state as much as I had to care about it this year. And there's still one race that I am voting with my nose, holding my nose, because there's the candidate for lieutenant governor is not a good person. She's a very not good person. And the other person's a Republican, so I'm voting for her. Um, and I'm not, there's no world in which I'm voting for the Republican. It's just
for
not
sure.
happening. But I'm so glad Becerra won. I'm so glad we're okay. Like California doesn't really have to worry about the general election when it comes to that race.
Yeah.
Other races, yes. That one, no. And I'm
Yeah,
just like,
between
thank
that and the
God
mayoral race,
we
that
can
was
focus elsewhere. The mayoral race. I mean, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if it's
at this
Karen Bass. I don't care if it's Nithya
Nazi
Raman.
ramen.
I don't care. They're both fine. I mean, will Karen Bass will keep doing what she's doing, which she's doing a pretty okay job. And she just got in with a really bad previous thing that she has to fix and
Mm-hmm.
make up for. And Nithya Raman could be great, and I don't care. It's not Spencer
It's
Pratt.
not
I
Spencer
can
Pratt.
focus on other races. I
And
don't have to focus on that one.
and I think that's the thing. Like, can we get there? Like, can we get to the point where it's like, okay, hey, we got through it, we made it through. Listen, and this is where we get into the vote blue no matter who. And I generally that's my thought process. Like I would have handled living in is it Maine? I would have handled living in Maine a little bit different. But when it came to the general election, I still would have voted for Graham
Yeah.
Platter.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the thing that people don't get about Vote Blue No Matter Who, which is something I believe strongly, is that it's not about the primary. Unless the only time it's about a primary is during Jungle Primary, and that's a different
Hmm.
story. But it's not about the primary. It's about the general election. It's not when your choice, like people are like, oh, but vote blue no matter who. You're voting for the. We're talking about two Democrats.
Yeah.
You're voting blue no matter who.
Yeah.
You're doing the assignment. We're talking about the general election. The general
Yeah.
election, when you're not voting blue no matter who, that's the problem. The problem is when people are voting for the Green Party. I look at like some races, and like there was one race in, I don't remember what district it was, but in one of the districts in Arizona in 2024, the amount of votes that the Democrat didn't get were the exact amount of votes that the Green Party candidate got. And that happened in three districts across the country, and we would have gotten the majority. And that is what I mean when I say vote blue no matter who. I
Yeah.
do not mean vote blue. And the thing is, it's not always vote blue no matter who. Like in I don't know places. In Nebraska, it's not vote blue no matter who for Senate because it's Osborne. In
Hmm.
um in North Dakota, it's not going to be vote blue no matter who. In there are a bunch of states that are doing this. I think Idaho is another one that
Yeah.
the independent is coming in and taking over and going to be mostly on our side, though they'll probably be more moderate, probably not
For
in
sure.
the Fetterman way of being moderate, but in a similar kind of vibe. That's when you don't vote blue no matter who. But in this, when I say vote blue no matter who, I'm not talking about those circumstances. And people who say they don't like it, no, I'm not talking about those circumstances.
Well,
It's really just about do not vote for the Republican, do not sit out the election, and do not vote Green Party. Like that is
right.
what it means.
And that's I mean, I felt like I was screaming like my hair's on fire, just being like, fully participate in the primary. If everyone participates in the primary, then you did the thing. You were
Mhm.
able to make the conscious choice. I know that, this is like this is one of the big things that people harp on is like, oh, I don't like the person. It's like, no, if you vote in the primary and your person lost, then you voted your conscience, right? You got to vote for the person. Okay, this is okay. You feel better now? Okay, now
Yeah.
hold your nose and close your eyes, right? And figure this out because I think we're constantly finding ourselves once again, Republicans are not reasonable at this point. Like we're not living in a world where, something I've heard so many people say, these aren't your grandpa's Republicans, right? Like we're not living in a world where even the Bush era of
Yeah.
compromise. I mean, if we're being real about it, they haven't been the same since the Tea Party. Like we're not living in a space where they're willing to operate in good faith.
Yeah.
And at this point, they have both Mike Johnson and John Thune have capitulated. They have just thrown their hands up
Oh yeah.
and allowed the executive branch to do whatever it wants.
Except for the
That
fact that John Thune still won't get rid of the filibuster, and he still has some enough that he's not who Mitch McConnell probably would have been if he was still in power, or who Rick Scott definitely would have been if he had
well,
won the.
Mitch McConnell, I think, as much as he aligned with Trump, I think Mitch McConnell understood that he was the most powerful man on earth.
Yeah.
And I don't see him ever giving that up. Like Mitch McConnell knows that for Mitch, Trump
Yeah.
was the vehicle for the Supreme Court picks I wanted. For him, Trump is nothing outside of what I want from him.
And Thune is scared of him. Yeah.
Yeah, but not scared enough to completely abdicate.
No,
Whereas Mike Johnson
Mike
has
Johnson
completely
isn't a
abdicated.
human. He is a puppet. He has
Yeah,
no thoughts, no brain, no nothing. He is just a puppet. He doesn't, I bet you if you like asked him about a certain bill, he would have no idea what it is because it was something Trump came up with, and he's just like, "Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am."
Even though he always wants us to remember that he is a constitutional scholar
Oh, yes.
and a fierce protector of Article One. He opens with that, and I'm like, you're using those words, but I don't believe they mean what you believe they mean. Like it's like every
Yeah.
time I hear him say that, I'm like, bro, you have literally handed over power. Not only that, but when you're showing up to UFC fights with the president, that is a level of fraternization that is inappropriate.
Yeah.
considering the objective of the checks and balances. Like, and there was a time where the you could have fraternization, but with like pushback. I mean, I think we all remember Boehner and Obama, right? Who found ways to work with each other, found ways that they disagreed, and by the end, were you know, joking about it. Like we just don't
Yeah.
live in that space anymore.
But I think there's also a problem with people being so anti the word bipartisan because that's the only way anything can pass, period, in
For
any
sure.
way, shape, or form. Like, one thing that makes me so sad is the lack of attention on the 21st Century Road to Housing Act that is now law. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
is a huge affordable housing bill. It's I would put it on the same level as the Inflation Reduction Act and by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. And it happened despite Trump and no one's talking about it. I think most people don't even know what happened. And
Yeah.
like I included it in one of my posts and it's gotten zero traction. Nothing. No one knows it happened because the left has convinced people in the consultant class and all of these people have convinced everyone that it's not worth talking about. It's not worth anything. And
Yeah.
when anything bipartisan happens, we should ignore it existing. And like that's the only things that can get done right now are bipartisan. So the fact that we
Yeah.
got something passed, we should be celebrating that. And I think that that's like a real miss, this idea that we take words and they this word means one thing and that's the only thing it means and therefore we can never talk about the other things that it means. And
Right.
that's happening so much.
Yeah. I mean, like Lauren Underwood, I think is a great example of someone who like is writing and passing
Yeah, she's
legislation.
amazing.
And it's like, how? How are you doing that in a Mike Johnson controlled, like
Yeah.
conservative gridlocked space? Well, understanding that we're all Americans, and this bill will have this direct impact on this other group of people. At some point, we have to get there. At some point, we have to like back to Andy Bashir. We have to think about what will impact people in the Appalachians and Eastern Kentucky who aren't going to vote for him, and want to impact Black folks in Louisville who will.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the thing is so one of the things with Lauren Underwood is the her momnibus package and the fact
Hmm.
that she took out the Black maternal health angle of that because that is the only way it's going to pass this Congress. Promise you, the
Yeah.
next time that there's a Democrat in the White House, she will put it right back in if it's not put into effect before then. But like people, I think it was Miss Magazine was really angry with her for that, and I'm just thinking she's doing what she has to do. Like we can't pass this way, but we can pass it this other way.
Hmm.
And there are bills that are constantly being introduced right now that are like very slim, very little things that could change. And people are like, well, why aren't you going further? Well, because this can pass.
Yeah.
This can actually make a difference today, as opposed to something that's going to make a difference in 12 years
Hmm.
that we need done now. So let's
Yeah.
pass the thing that is not great, but is better than the alternative of nothing. Like
Yeah.
we're not I always talk to people that it's like the alternative is not the Democrat versus the more progressive person that you like better. The alternative is Democrat versus Republican. And your
Hmm.
idea that oh, but it's not the more progressive person has nothing to do with the fact that the problem is between the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's like
Yeah. And I think at some point, like it's like the anti-Asian hate bill that got passed. I think it was like 2021, 2022, somewhere
yeah.
in there. Um, that was originally written as an anti-lynching kind of very specifically talking about Black Lives Matter and the Black experience. It couldn't get passed that way.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's this onslaught of um, outward expressions of hate, both verbal and violent, towards Asian folks. And so then they wrote it in a more inclusive way, and boom, the principle remained. It gets passed like easily. So I think, yeah, to your point, we gotta stay focused. So before we pop off or hop off, not pop off, before we hop off, you can pop off on like what is one like hot take you have about the general election season? Like one thing that you're like, oh, I'm feeling this. I know, right putting you on the spot, but I'm feeling this particular
Oh, what
thing
is
we
the
might
one
see.
hot take I have about I mean, let me just I think that one of our best tools is coming from the DNC, and I think that's not taken seriously in any way, shape, or form. I think that the infrastructure they're putting together is incredibly impressive, and I wish that there would be more attention on what they're doing because it's not just about the general election, it's about the lower races too, about the local and the state, and
Hmm.
like what y'all vote is doing, like with Amanda and Kate and Anna, the work that they're doing is incredible. And so the idea of being able to have the infrastructure available for us to not just fight at the top of the ticket, but to fight down ballot is something that I think is like that's where I think focus should be. And I think people are much too focused on the top of the ticket, even though that's important. It's not that
For
it's not
sure.
important, but we need to focus on the bottom, the lower stuff as much as we're focusing on the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the potential internet integration of like political conversation in 26 might be a test run for what is possible in 28. We both know
Yes.
there's a very, very unified front on the right in regards to the belief systems, the values, the talking points, etc. That does not exist on the left, and it
No.
shouldn't. Like the fact
Right.
that we kind of have a big tent is a good thing. I want diversity of thought and interaction therein, and not a centralized top down. This is what
Otherwise,
we
we're a
think is what we
cult.
believe. Yes. Um, but I'm very curious to see what happens if we can get past some of the grievances and the grievance
Yeah.
politic that we've been operating from going into the general election. Can we, as a collective, focus on supporting the candidates who are up and down the ballot? I also just think that the the amplifying of people who are quote unquote down ballot will be super important. Um,
Oh,
because I know like something I'm not going to shut up about, something I plan on interviewing as many, state house and state senate candidates as possible. Minnesota had a vote, one Democrat vote majority in the
right.
Senate
Yes,
and
you
was
did.
tied in the House. And the fact that they were tied in the House, stuff made it out of the Senate. For example, a gun violence prevention bill after there were children who lost their lives at the beginning of last school year at
Yep.
Annunciation School, right? The literally one of the senators in the room for the conversation about this bill, I refer to him as 50 Cent all the time. He got shot 9 times, right? Senator John
Yeah.
Hoffman. That makes it out the Senate.
Yeah.
It goes to the House. Lisa Demuth is the Speaker of the House. She hid the bill, wouldn't allow it to even be recognized because if they acknowledge that it made its way from the Senate, then they'd have to bring it to a vote. So they use a procedural way of not even, it was like shelved. They didn't even recognize its delivery. And when asked about it,
Yeah.
they would be like, we have not received, like it was like they went through this whole big subterfuge in order to hold that as in the place.
Yeah.
Well, that's a violence prevention bill in Minnesota, let alone the redistricting that happened in Tennessee or Texas, right? So those can we coalesce around those state seats as well as what we're seeing at the national level? Can we just get on the same page?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even like everybody. And here's my other hot take: if you don't live somewhere and you have some positive say, shut up.
Shut up. I have one more hot take.
Yeah.
That that there's no such thing as red states and blue states. There's red dots and blue dots, and those exist throughout every state. And so we need to shut up about the South is not lost to us, and the California is not a blue state. California is not very blue at all. Minnesota is not very blue at all. Minnesota is a very purple state. And so this idea that we like decide that this state is done to talk about, at like one of my best examples is Massachusetts, where I promise you anyone who watches this from Massachusetts is going to say, but that's a blue state. Not at the local level, it's not. It's a
Mm-hmm.
blue state at the state level, it's a blue state at the federal level. When you get down to the towns, that is how, if anyone remembers, that's where ICE went first,
Right.
because these small towns are mostly run by Republicans, these small rural towns. And so this idea that we act like, oh, well, this is a blue state, so we don't need to worry about the Republicans there. Oh, this is a red state, so we can't win here. That is
Mm-hmm.
not helpful. And I think that that's something that really has to change. And I think that's again, back to the we are a big tent and we're going to need to have people that we don't fully agree with, and we're going to need to lift up people we don't fully agree with. And that's not something people want to do.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get our act together. And I know that both you and
I
I will
hope
be
so.
in the comment sections of, of
Oh, yeah,
posts on threads being
always.
like, well, actually, if you understood how this worked, then you wouldn't actually say this. Or like, hey, there is, I mean, once again, yesterday we saw Wesley Bell like shellac Corey Bush. It wasn't close.
Yeah.
And we also saw Abdul Al Sayed win a very close race against Haley Stevens, which tells me there
Yeah.
is no general direction of the big party towards something. Is that
Nope.
individual people, that individual policies are affecting individual communities in particular ways. And the more that we can celebrate and uplift those community choices, we'll be in a better spot.
Yeah, the name of the game is are how is this candidate good for that community? It's not is
Yeah,
this candidate good for the Democrats or whatever. It's is this candidate good for that community specifically? And if they are, they have a really good chance. I think that uh Deja Fox versus Adalita Grijalva is a great example because they're both incredibly progressive, but Adalita Grijalva had the roots in the community, and it didn't
yeah,
matter that Deja Fox had the same values. She didn't have those roots, and so she couldn't win. And so it's really about, and that's why I hate people who try to run for office first going to the national stage, because like you got to get those roots first. You got to
for
be on the
sure.
school board. You got to be in the city council and city supervisors. Like people are like, oh, but that's career politicians. I'm like, okay, well then maybe I support career politicians. Like,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
but like that. I think that's the real thing. And when people show up and are in their districts and care about their districts, that's who wins. And that's happened time and time again. And that's why someone like um, Marie Glusenkamp can win and someone like Mamdani can win, because one thing they have in common is that they both care immensely about their districts
for
and they go
sure.
about it a really different way. But that's how you win. And if you want to unseat someone like Marie Glusenkamp, you have to be in that district. That has to be not just your home, but your roots, your values,
For
your
sure.
system. Without that, you can't win.
And the internet isn't real
Oh my God. No, the internet is not real. And
because
just
it'll have
because
you
you have a lot
thinking
of followers on social media does not mean you are going to be the next candidate, next winner of anything, because you were candidate, your followers could come from anywhere in the country. And it has nothing to do with your district at all.
as we once again saw in the primaries from yesterday.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know that you just because I know one controversy has been around DNC and people saying that
Yeah,
DNC doesn't have money, and so I know that you just dropped a video about that, but
I
just give me a
did.
top level on it, and then we can make sure everybody goes and watches it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked with Tim Wegner, who is a member of the DNC Finance Committee. He also works with the DFL, so you might have run into him at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I
He
have.
is, yeah, he's great. I adore him. And so he basically said that there's $8 million coming in every month from donors, mostly the 8 million every month, like the sustaining is mostly grassroots, which is amazing to hear. But because of that, they're able to overspend a little bit
Hmm.
because they know what's coming up. So they don't
For
have to
sure.
be like, oh, well, we have to wait to hold whatever. They know how much money they're getting next month. So they can be like, okay, we're going to spend a little bit more. And what they ended up doing is they spent um enough so that we won the governor's race in Virginia and in New Jersey. And they overspent for that. But that doesn't mean that they're in debt, but they're not in debt. Like it's not anything
Yeah,
that
yeah,
affects the future of the party or the Democrats. It's just that they overspent so that we could win those races, so that we have the strength we need to go
right.
forward. And then they're also spending monthly in ways they've never done before. I think it's 2 million a month they're going to the state parties. I know that it's 22,000 that's going to red state parties and 17,000 that's going to blue state parties.
Okay.
17,500, 22,500, but same difference. And so what it's going to is it's going to year-round staff. So instead of just there's no more field organizers that work on one campaign and then disappear. There's this they're working on creating a year-round staff across the country.
Okay.
And then it goes to It also goes to getting better technology. So getting better systems. One thing he explained was that we now know when elections are happening in Florida because each county in Florida can have an election on a different day. We never knew what days those were happening, but now
Okay.
we have the database so that we have that information. There's also a monthly conversation between all the chairs and they discuss different ideas. So, like a couple months ago, the chair of Idaho, she was saying like, "Hey, this is what we're doing in my state," and then someone else was like, "Wait, I need to do that in my state." And so, like, they're
Yeah.
now all talking to each other. So it's not just
Yeah.
each state is coming at it from a separate
Yeah.
location. And so that's what the money is going towards. It's not, and people are like, well, why don't I just give to my favorite candidate? Because your favorite candidate is focusing on their election.
Yeah.
They are not focusing on democratic infrastructure. And the DNC is about democratic infrastructure. It's not about candidates. This isn't the DSCC. This isn't the DNCC.
Right.
It is not about candidates. And so that's where it's happening. And that's why I'm so passionate about what the DNC is doing. And I really am trying to get an interview with Ken Martin. That is like one of my high priorities right now.
Yeah.
But I wish the people who were interviewing him would talk about that and wouldn't just try to shit on him and destroy
Yeah.
him. But we know why they're doing that. I mean, the idea is to destroy the Democratic Party so that they'll have to go back to their old ways and the consultants will have more power again, which would
Which
destroy
worked
us
out
because
so well in
it's worked out
2024.
so well every time that's
So
happened.
well.
It's the
Like
greatest strategy in the world.
the people who don't touch grass but know exactly what color the grass should be. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out, and I'm sure we're gonna pull this together again because yeah, this I think what's hilarious is we cross paths online because we were having some very similar conversations. And I always just
Exactly.
I appreciate when people I feel like have common sense, but also are willing to do just a little bit of research before they talk. So I appreciate you for being one of those warriors who actually reads before you speak. Um, and I know it's going to be. I mean, it's we're in the fight for the next 93 days or so.
Yeah. Coming up.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
hey,
I
then
appreciate
there's
seeing
gonna
you
be
in
a blue
Wisconsin.
wave. We're gonna win all
We'll
of
be
the
fine. We'll
places.
be fine. Everything will be fine.
Yeah,
But
we're
yeah,
gonna win in Texas. We're gonna win in Michigan. We're gonna, it's
in
all gonna work.
Iowa and Alaska and New
Yes.
Hampshire and yeah, we're gonna do it. We'll be great. But
Wish
it's
I had
great
the
to see
what was the
you.
guy's name? Who's like, we're not only going to North Carolina, right? We're going to Texas and we're going to Iowa. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Howard Dean, which is the last
Yes.
time that we had a 57 state and territory strategy.
Listen, not just that,
Was
but like
Howard
that was
Dean.
also the time where making a weird noise was enough to get you to like tank your presidential campaign.
And now, if people don't make weird noises, that's enough to tank their campaign. Yep. But
But
I'm
like,
really, really glad we did this, and it's great to finally like talk to you because we've been talking in like chats and be like, oh no, I now know that this is a good thought because you co-signed it, and like, yeah, it's great to like look at someone's comment section and be like, oh cool, Wayne's there, I don't need to be there. Great, this is
yeah,
already taken care of. No need for me to pile on to this mess.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm really glad we did this. Let's do it again before the election so that we can hopefully
absolutely.
help people get out to vote.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you're in Minnesota, make sure you vote by next Tuesday, August 11th. That's when our
Yep.
primary is. And then we can dead all this. Republicans will pick somebody. We'll pick somebody. We can move forward and just go beat them people.
Yep. And I also have an election guide weekly. So if you don't live in Minnesota or you need to know where to vote, I have an election guide that can help you with where to find all the information about voting every week. Because
Yes.
election
And
day is every
tell
Tuesday.
everyone where to find you because I'm posting this on
Oh
YouTube.
yeah. So you can find me basically everywhere except Twitter. I don't have Twitter, but I have everything else. I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Facebook, I have Threads. You find me most on Threads. That's where I yell at people. Blue Sky. I'm on Tumblr. I'm really everywhere.
I'm just around.
I'm on Substack. I'm on everything. And it's usually Ariella.elm. It might be Ariella Elm. I think it's Ariella Elm on YouTube. But and then it's also the Daily Elm on Substack. But yeah, I'm everywhere. I post about like anti-doomerism. So if you want to know what's going right, that's where I post and what Democrats are doing. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
where you
Well,
can find me.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody who took time to watch. We love you so much, and until next time, we'll see you.
Bye.
And